It's all right.
Can you make my hair look like this?
Oh, man, what you want to make your hair look like that for?
See, that's the problem with y'all today. Y'all don't know nothing.
Will you let the man tee you off? You yap worse than 6 barbers.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Your Barber podcast. I'm your host, Matt Ballot, a.k.a. Matty Blades. On Instagram, we're up to episode number 28 now. The Your Barber podcast was made to inspire and relate to the everyday barber and share the barber/life story of our guest. And today I was able to corral a fellow barber in the greater Atlanta area, just like me. We connected on Instagram. I figured let's do a podcast, man. He has his own podcast he just started called Beyond the Barber's Chair. And he is also employed at American Haircuts in Brookhaven in the Atlanta area. His name is Dave Green, ladies and gentlemen. Let's bring him in. He is.
Oh, hell, you found that. Awesome.
So, yeah, man.
Yeah,
you found a little Buddy Rich.
Buddy Rich. I'll tell you what, there's a story that goes behind that chart. So, back in the day, I was a Navy musician when I came out of high school.
Wow.
And so I'm playing the Navy bands. And, in high school, it's a different level because everyone up there in the Navy, they're really, really good players. I mean, these guys they're fantastic. And, I had done the School of Music, which I had in Virginia, and went from there and then went to my first duty station, which was 7th Fleet in Japan. We were going to Hong Kong in 3 days, so they had to work me into the band pretty quick. And that chart right there, Time Check by Buddy Rich, was the very first thing I saw. You probably heard how fast those fingers were flying on the sax.
I saw the video.
And I am just lost, like a deer in the headlights. Like, what the hell did I get myself into here? Here you go. And I'm looking at the paper, and it is just a ton of freaking notes flying really fast. And I'm trying to sight read this thing first time, and just, I'm all over the place, just stumbling all over the place, to the point where, when we had taken a break, and so we're going through all this, the entire book of music we had. And one of the other sax players, Stan Bilski. And by the way, Stan and I very quickly became really, really, really good friends. I mean, the guy is great. We've had an absolute blast together. But I remember that, that first break, he looks at me and say, "Hey, listen, we can't let your lack of skill hold us up, man. You really got to tighten up and get going." And I'm 19 years old. I have never, ever, ever had someone tell me that ever. It's like
what instrument did you play?
Sax. I was a sax player.
Saxophone. Nice.
And it's my first professional ass kicking. Yeah. The first time I'd actually really faced is like, oh crap, what have I gotten myself into here?
Well, that makes us who we are, man. It's a part of our story, right? Failure.
It absolutely is. Yeah. I am, listening to a lot of your episodes and talking with other barbers, I am really surprised at just how many barbers have been musicians.
Yeah.
And the two just play together really well.
I've been on a musician run. I definitely have an ear for music. That's the best way I could put it. I have a great musical ear. I'm a hip hop fan at heart, but I'm like really into like the sampling of music and just like how it was made, came from the 90s, and it's kind of came full circle now, and like songs in the 90s and even in the early 2000s are being like resampled in today's music. So it's kind of made its way back around. It's crazy. But I've messed around a little like DJ equipment, just dabbled, just kind of like my dad, just playing along or just, trying to create a little bit, but, never really had the full patience. My problem with creating music was always like too many ideas, right? Like I couldn't like zero in on one thing and like follow through with it. I'd come up with something else before I could complete the first idea.
Oh, absolutely. And when they start talking about things like jazz improvisation, here I was, 19 years old, and I had no real clue, how to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Luckily, there were a lot of guys who did. So I was more of a, one of the section players and just filling up the band, that sort of thing, and seeing where else I could fit in and contribute. But when you start talking about improvisation, it's real easy to get all heady into it. You're thinking too much.
Yeah.
And when you start getting too much in the head, everything else falls apart. The art's not there.
Right.
Whereas if you already got an idea what's going on and your head already knows what you want to do, it's just so much simpler at that point.
Right. That's why I like in barbering. I just say, like, do everything you always do, no matter the client, no matter, what was going on before you walked into the shop or what you're thinking about after the shop. Just like stay zeroed in the pocket, how you always approach it. And then, it removes the likelihood of getting in your head more, because that can obviously happen. I was telling my wife earlier, we went for a walk around the belt line, which, you're familiar with. And, I was telling her, I was like, every barber has like a baseline anxiety. Like I was talking about like when I first started in the shop I'm working at, and it's actually part of my intro. One of my clients, he was literally my very first client, my first day. And he stayed with me ever since. I cut his hair yesterday, actually. It's funny. But I'm just like cutting his hair, and I remember like just being like stuck in his haircut, because he gets like a taper and he does like a long slick back at the same time. So it's not an easy haircut to achieve and make look great. But, after time, of course, you just keep calibrating and adjusting and just making it better every time, or maybe trying a new path out. And, yeah, I think I was, that picture was being taken while I was working with him. And I was like, Matt, what are you doing? This isn't how you cut hair. Like, like, why are you so lost right now? It's crazy. Sometimes when you're in a new situation, a new environment, you're just like, do I even know what I'm doing?
Exactly.
I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'm just, this is more improvisation, man. Right.
There are a lot of times I've had to ask myself, it's like, do I really know how to cut? there are those cuts that come on. It's like, wow. Oh, geez, how did I get through that?
Yeah. Some days things are just clicking perfect. And like, it's amazing what it does to your overall like morale and mood. It's just like, wow, I did it today. I really got after it. Today was a good day. And then there's some days it's just like things just aren't clicking. You go to pick up your brush like 4 times. You can't pick it up. You're like, oh, man, it's going to be one of those days.
Right. Ever since I started barbering, I don't have a bad day at work. Now, I may have a bad moment.
Right.
Plenty of those. But bad days, I just don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
I just have so much fun doing this.
It's the
A
best.
great place to be. I mean, here I am. I'm talking with a dude or talking with a bunch of dudes, and we're just sitting here having conversations about anything.
Is there anything better?
Exactly.
Bullshitting with the fellas about whatever for 30 minutes to an hour. I mean, you really can't beat it. And it's obviously more than that. A lot of people from the outside looking in, don't realize it's more than a haircut, but they're like, just looks like a bunch of dudes bullshitting all day. It's like, aren't you jealous? That's like someone's made the wrong move in their career.
I hear that in my chair a lot.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about that. They ask me, because how the conversations go. So, how'd you get involved? All that. Do you like it? Oh yeah, man, I have a blast. I don't have a bad day. And some of their eyes just rolls like, oh, I wish I had that.
Yeah. That is a very common. They're like, do you like it? I'm
right.
Like, I always laugh. I'm like, boy, oh boy, they hate their job.
Think about how many guys are in our chairs on a daily basis who are doing something that they don't want to do, but to get there, they actually came from another career. I mean, how many guys in our chair actually do what they went to school to do? It's
very few.
Yeah, their first name is Doctor or their last name is Esquire. Other than that, pretty much everyone has shifted along. Everyone's done reinventions somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
And I feel for the guys who hate their jobs, because I've had those jobs. I've had jobs where I absolutely just hated it. It's just complete misery. Yeah, I understand how that feels, So
that's why I got into barbering, because I worked enough jobs I hated before I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. Like, what's it going to hurt? Were you going to hate it? Like, that was my fear. I was like, oh man, am I going to hate this like everything else? And,
right.
Luckily I didn't. that moment where it clicked, where you had your first like quote unquote good haircut, you're like, wow, I'm gonna get paid for this one day. This is nuts. I love this. So yeah. So Dave Green, reintroduce you, man. You know, I believe I was out of the country. I can't remember who reached out or how we connected, but it was on Instagram, and I was interested in having you for a guest eventually. And we kind of scheduled this thing out. You said you had some things in the works, and look at you now, man. You got podcasts. You're really pushing them out. I like it.
I try.
And you said you want to be known as a resource, basically, to barbers, and that's exactly what it is. I was listening to it this morning and the day before a little bit, and it's a lot of information. It's a lot of helping barbers that just might not know, and you know that's part of the goal of this. It's a layer of this podcast too. It's just make barbers realize there's resources, there's things you can do to make this easier and to enjoy it even more.
The whole idea of the podcast is that we all know how to cut hair. We can all cut, we all fade, different variations and whatever. I don't consider myself to be the most ice cold fader in the whole world, but we can all cut, we all fade, we all have our relationships with the customers, things like that. And that's what we're taught to do. But then there's a lot of things that we're not shown how to do, and that in the Navy, we called it sea lawyers. You know, you would hear, oh yeah, well, here's how this works, here's how that works, and you hear from these guys who, you know, they've been there for a while, and you just pay attention. And we have kind of the same thing in the barber industry. So I'll give you a couple examples here. One of the most common ones is, well, you should go get yourself make an LLC, okay? And
Yeah.
you know, a lot of folks are like, well, what is an LLC? How do I do that? Oh, just go to LegalZoom and get an LLC. And that's about the extent of the conversation. What the whole podcast is with Beyond the Barber's Chair is about bringing professionals in who work with these things on a day-to-day basis. So I was able to have someone who does business entities come on the show there and break down what an LLC is, what it does, what it doesn't do. When you're putting it together, how do you want to do this? Well, you probably don't want to go to LegalZoom and do it. Get someone who actually knows what they're doing, who knows what questions to ask of the barber. Because if you get an LLC that's not set up the right way for our industries or for our own individual situations, you may as well not have an LLC to begin with.
Right.
And so to have people come in and can actually talk about that sort of thing. Another one is like taxes. I've got an entire episode about write-offs, tax write-offs. Now this sprung from I was over at Premier Orlando, and a few of us had a conversation, and they're saying, well, yeah, hey, I'm on this trip. This whole thing's a whole write-off for me. And people in the conversation were saying, well, that's cool. What is this? How's that work? Oh, no one knew. I was able to get Ramona Baptiste, who is a phenomenal tax resolutions expert in. She was able to talk about it, and she said, you know, here's what a write-off is. Here's what it's not. Here's how this thing works. If you're on a business trip, here's what you can, here's what you can't write off. She spent a good amount of time just breaking it down really, really, really well. And so what it is it's information from experts who deal with these different situations on a day-to-day basis, who actually know what it is they're talking about, as opposed to a bunch of us barbers trying to figure out and Google and YouTube and all that stuff and listen to whatever's trying to sell us, whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're one professional to another, you know, we're learning. And I was really enjoying the chiropractor episode and the ergonomics one with the shear cutting. Like those are all anything. It's like taking a toll on the body. I'm like, okay, I'm open ears right now.
Oh, absolutely. So Willie Hyde, he's the director of education for Shark Fin Shears. And he, of all the educators I've seen out there, either at shows or online, whatever, he really breaks down why the ergonomics in the hands matters. And I knew that I wanted to be able to focus on having swivel thumb shears. I wanted, because a lot of us barbers, they think it's a little fancy thing, or we don't even know about them, or whatever. But those swivel thumb shears are remarkable for our hands.
Yeah.
I mean, I can literally, instead of having the scissors, I'm going to try to do this. Instead of having the scissors move my hand all over the place here, I can literally just move my thumb, and the shear will go right along with me.
That's all
I
you
can
want to
cut an
move
entire
too,
thing and
the
have no
thumb.
hand pain. It's
That's
amazing.
the only thing you want to move, right? The thumb.
Yeah.
I feel like it aids in it more. The
It
swivel.
does.
Yeah,
And
it makes it easier.
right. And I've got 5 different sets of blenders or thinning or whatever we want to call them.
Yeah.
They all do different jobs, as far as different kinds of blends and stuff. But we're moving a whole lot of hair when we're using those things.
No doubt.
There's a lot of hair moving through there. There's a lot of resistance. So do we really want our hands to be, in a weird position or in anything other than a natural position to be working with that?
Yeah.
And when I cut all day long, day after day and day, and having zero hand pain, that tells me something.
Absolutely. Yeah. The hand pain I always gets in my left hand. Well, I'm a righty, so I'm not cutting with shears in my left hand, but it's always the grip of the comb and things like that, because I'm always gripping something in the offhand, whether it's a brush or a comb or whatever, a neck duster.
I feel naked without something in that hand.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I find myself like holding my hand out, like kind of like what? And I'm like, put something in your hand, Matt. You're making weird gestures, right?
The guy in the chair is like, "What are you doing?"
Right? Yeah. I always imagine, like, sometimes I always cut hair like I am being watched, right? So I'm like, imagine someone like in the waiting area seeing my hand right now without something in it, whatever the hell shape I'm making with it, right?
Right.
Definitely don't want that.
Yeah, that whole I don't know what to do with my hands thing going on.
110%. 110%. So before we dive any more into your podcast, we're going to absolutely come back to it.
Sure.
But I have something else podcast related with my just an observation. Always have a little observation, Dave, kind of an opening monologue of sorts. And this has to do with a client that you might have in your chair. Have you told people about your podcast? A lot of your clients?
Some of them, yes.
Why some?
Just because it just comes up.
Right. Gotcha.
Just
yeah, you're not like, up. Hey, by the way, I have a pod. Like sometimes I can kind of bring it up like that to clients.
Right.
It's always
here's how the conversation usually comes along. We're sitting talking about things and, hey, so what are you up to? How are things going? And of course hey, what are you up to? How are things going?
I got to record.
What are you doing these days? Well, I'm working on this, working on that. Got a lot of irons in the fire. Got a podcast which I'm putting together for barbers. And we chat about it real quick. Oh, that sounds cool, and we move on.
Yeah.
Because the guys in the chair now, even though the information is universal, let's face it. Anyone can use this information, right?
100%.
But the guys in the chair aren't who I'm targeting with a podcast.
Right.
To them, it's like, okay, cool. He's a podcaster. Yay. That sort of thing.
Right. I always let them know. I was like, my podcast, it's not just like, dude, what clippers do you use? Like, it's not just that. It's more than that. It's kind of made for whoever, wants to relate to it. So that's why I always kind of approach them. I'm like, it's a little more humanitarian than just behind the chair talk. So
exactly. And that's the thing. Now, when I talk to professionals, when I have someone who's like a CPA in my chair or something like that, that's when the conversation really starts to blossom. Because if I'm going to be interviewing a CPA or someone in the financial, I want to have that kind of anchor, a frame of reference, so that when I have a guest on there who's doing the talk, it's not just brand new information to me. It's something which I've at least heard before.
Gotcha.
And can actually interact with them in the conversation. So when it's someone who provides like one of the professional services or a health service or something beneficial for a barber, the conversation just kind of naturally runs that way. If that makes
100%.
sense.
Like my barber guests that have podcasts, like that's huge for me because that's the easiest like reconnaissance I can do on the guest. Listen to their podcast. You'll learn a lot about them and what they're about. And so, yeah, I'm always appreciative of my barber guests having podcasts as well because it's no competition. It's definitely all love and just keep spreading that network out like a spider web, man. So the observation, though, is, you let these people know, I started back. It was the day of the Super Bowl is when I released the first episode. And I thought about it back in November of last year. We're almost coming up on a year of just the thought coming into my brain. You tell your clients, and then, a few months go by. Sometimes you get these people that are, 3-monthers, or, you let a couple visits go by. And then they kind of, in almost a pretentious way, they're like, "Hey, how's that podcast going?" And you're like, "Yeah, you little shit. I'm up to episode 30 now." Like or whatever episode you're on. And then, so, like, have you got that yet? I know you're kind of still in the beginnings, but, like, have you got someone recall it back and be like, "Hey, how's that going?" Almost in like they expected you to stop doing it already way.
I haven't had it in that way where I think they expect me to stop doing it yet.
Yeah.
I haven't had that, but I'll tell you what I did have, which kind of caught me off guard. The guy goes, so how's the little podcast going?
Yeah, little podcast.
Whoa.
That word, you're just like, okay, all right.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't have a lot of clients like that. I mean, it's kind of like your shop and my shop. The people in our chairs, they can appreciate someone reaching out on their own and trying to do something.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a president of a company putting down someone trying to create something good.
Right. Yeah.
I've never seen that. So people who actually work hard and understand things, they get it.
Yeah. Most of the time, it's about them when they're saying, "How's that little podcast going?" When they tried their little thing too, and it didn't work, and so they're just like looking for someone else that failed or that gave up. It's really giving up, not failing.
Well, and you know what? See, that's the thing which I noticed with podcasts. There's a lot of podcasts out there that get started, and they have 2 or 3 really good episodes, and then now what?
Fizzles out. Yeah.
It just fizzles out. So yeah.
When I see it, I'm like rooting for them. I'm like, dude, why'd you stop? Come on, bring it back. You can still do it.
It can totally be done.
Yeah. It's not, dude, I'm an idiot. I can do it. Anyone can do this. Just like anything, a little repetition, a little research, and just throwing yourself out there into the lion's den and pressing record. Sometimes that's all it is.
Right. And sometimes to help you out, say, hey, here's what you do. The platform you're using, this first time I've seen your platform, I use a different platform. And so show me this, I'm thinking, that's so freaking simple. How come I haven't done this before?
Right. Yeah.
You get those kind of surprises.
Yeah. No, I'm here to share any knowledge too. Feel free to ask anything. And I'm going to ask you about your platform as well. But yeah, that was an observation. I just wanted to kind of dabble on that a little bit, just because, people are weird, man. People sometimes, I hate to bring up my wife again, but sometimes, like, if she's having a bad day or something, she wants to watch like a disaster for a movie. You know what I mean? Like, I think back when like Shameless was on, or the show Shameless, like she was like, I like watching a show. It makes me feel better about my life. That's what she would say. I was like,
the whole Jerry Springer effect.
Yeah, 100%. You're like, wow, I thought I was having a bad day till I watched this.
Yeah, people enjoy good train wreck. It's amazing. I mean, think about how many times we've seen this online. There is something, it's about to go down. Something really bad's about to happen. Who's there helping the guy? People got their phones out. Hey, check this out, guys. Hey, look at this train wreck going on here.
Wasn't there a guy that got killed at a football game recently? He got beat to death, and like 90% of the people were just standing around watching, filming it.
Yeah, I think I heard something about that.
I can't remember where it was, but yeah, that happened. And it's the same thing on like Instagram with Atlanta, like ATL Scoop and like all these pages where you see some sort of maniac in traffic doing something that, we see on a day-to-day basis driving around here in the city. But yeah,
people love seeing people go splat.
Yeah, 100%, no doubt about it.
If you look at there was a thing, I'm sure it still exists, but way on back, in the prehistoric internet, we had this thing called Fail Blog.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you get a bunch of things like, that didn't work out, that didn't work out, that didn't work out, and it was one of the most popular websites people would go to.
Right.
People love seeing that kind of stuff.
It goes back to like Chris Farley. People just like people falling down. It's
yes, yes. It's like so in the shop where I'm at. All right, we have we don't get a lot of sports on the TVs or anything like that. Most of it is almost like a TikTok thing. A whole bunch of guys, doing things.
The chive.
Chive. Yeah, that's the one.
That's
Chive.
what you picked.
Yeah, you got it. Hey,
Yeah.
y'all get all the soccer, we get the chive. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I'm going nuts on Saturday, just trying to put college football on, and just this is like my heaven this time of year, man. It's like Christmas time. It's nice.
So,
but yeah, back to the podcast.
Football.
What's that? Go ahead.
Are you able to cut while watching football?
No, it's really not possible. You kind of just have to peek when you can, and just you can kind of track it a little better if the client's actually into the game or has some sort of stake in it. They kind of update you. I'm like, they'll be like, oh, and you're like, what happened?
Right. I know me too well. So the difference between soccer and football. Soccer is always going.
Yeah.
And I'd be looking at the screen the whole time. Wow. Football, every couple minutes there's something going on real intense. Okay, stop everything.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I would have a hard time cutting with sports in front of me.
Yeah. Soccer, I mean, you could see something developing from a distance, and you're like, here we go. But football, I mean, if there's any sport you could pull off in barbering to watch, it would be football, right?
Yeah.
I guess that would be the only one you could pull off, or golf, a little bit of golf every now and then.
Yeah, because that's one of those things where you get a little of action here and there.
Yeah.
And let me rephrase that. It's not continuous. There's time in between the action. So you have action. You got a minute or so. Action. 3 minutes or so. Action.
Yeah.
So you can actually create a pattern that works around that.
For sure.
Snip, watch. Snip, watch.
Right.
Oh,
like,
crap.
all right, I got a section
now.
out in a minute here. Let me put on a guard. What's the score? All right. My bet's still in the balance.
And if it's a tense moment, you put those tools down.
Right.
I know my luck. Oh, crap. Oh, sorry, dude.
Right. Yeah.
You're getting a fade today.
I'll kind of try to involve them. I'll spin them towards the TV and be like, dude, what happened? It was 10-0 a second ago. Now it's 24-14. Yeah. But yeah, back to the Barber podcast.
Oh, yeah.
My guest, AMI Fields, I had on a while ago. He threw that stat out there. And it was like, it's like a good 80% of podcasts fail like after the first episode, or if you make it to episode 2, I think you're better than like 80% podcasts. So
yeah,
keep pushing along, Dave.
I'll tell you something about the AMI Fields. Between him, Craig Charles, and Jordan, they've got the trio. They've done it right. The way I look at it, they can do it solo. If one needs to be sick, they can do 2 of them. They can do all 3 of them. It is a team that's involved. So when you have more than one person doing it, I don't want to say easier, simpler, but you have a lot more options and a lot more ways to make things happen. It's a lot more dynamic. And by the way, that Barber College Success is the first barber podcast I ever saw.
They've been doing it for a minute. They've been crushing it, man.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I like the 3 hosts because they're all in like a different part of their life too. Mm-hmm. So you get like 3 different perspectives. Back to football, it's almost like that quarterback documentary on Netflix. They pick 3 different quarterbacks at different parts of their career. One that's probably going to get benched, one that's going to win a Super Bowl, and one that's kind of in between. So it's interesting what they did, Barber College Success, and I was always appreciative of them, supporting my pod and being a part of it, and maybe I'll be a guest on theirs one day. But definitely, I was fortunate to be able to interview all 3 of them individually. So
I'll tell you a story about the guys there. Yeah. So they had their schools up in Bristol, Virginia, and Johnson City, Tennessee. And a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, knew that I was going after my instructor's license, and she said, hey, look, I'd like to get a school open here in about 6 months. And I'm thinking, well, that's pretty quick, but all right. But the school I had gone to is very alternative. So I want to see what a real school looked like. And I've been listening to these guys for a long time. It's like, these guys know. And I asked them if they'd mind if I'd go up there to go check it out. They rolled out the red carpet.
Wow.
Yeah, come on here. Come on. Let's take a look at. Let's see what's going on. And here's this. Here's our admin person, Robin, and let's go through all these things we have going over here. Meet our financial person, Dana. Meet Dale, who she takes care of a lot of the admin stuff at the other school. They show me all the things that go into opening a school. The very first thing I realized really quick is this isn't going to happen in 6 months. And that's a lot of stuff to get a school open.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, but
like the school I went to, they're up to 3 locations now, and I think the original location, I mean, months and months of a waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to have them on eventually too.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that is probably the most harrowing guests I could have. Those are my like mentors. They taught me a lot. They taught me my baseline there. So yeah, them I'm like super nervous about interviewing them, but I definitely want to ask them, at what point do you kind of like educate other instructors, or like, kind of do what I'm doing, like just like support the network of barbers and barber podcasts, because to them, I don't think anyone's going to take any of their business. They're so good. They're so professional, and they did it the right way, and they strive themselves on doing it the right way. And yeah, like I said, I don't think they would lose any business if they branched out into even like, helping out other schools. So,
well, and the whole adage of the rising tide lifts all ships. Now, do they already know about your podcast?
I reached out to them. I kind of want to jam as much people in this room as I can on this stage as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to kind of see. I was a bit of an anomaly student, because I spanned across like 3 eras of barber students because I took so long. I was the Van Wilder of barber school. I was saying, I was just like, I just inched my way through it, and I had to work. I had bills to pay. I had a wife that's not from this country that got pregnant, and we're back and forth to Italy, and we're still trying to, just exist as a grad student and a, someone who's kind of just squeaking by paying bills. And so, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to handle all at once, and it's kind of wild how I got through it, but we did little by little, and I appreciate them for working with me. And that's why I always tell people, I was like, you don't have the money to start, or they'll work with you. They'll make it work. They're still trying to run a business, but they're people, they're people that are willing to help people. So, they came from humble beginnings too, so they get it. And they're great people and great instructors as well, and they keep growing somehow. It's wild.
So love your story.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
I can't wait.
Look at where you're at right now. You're in one of the nicest shops I've ever seen. Okay, yeah, you got a great team of people there. Yeah, I mean, the community that you've got going on right there is just fantastic. The clients, they're top-notch clients. Heck, you got one of the best bars in the freaking city right there with you too, man.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. I'm like, the bar is probably one of the most underrated bars. Like, I don't even know if it's that underrated.
Oh my gosh. So, so there's a time when I was looking around, and I checked it out just based on a friend's recommendation. Her husband got cut there, and I went and checked it out. Sat down, with the owner for a bit, and we just, had a chance to talk and everything like that. And I think there's a difference between confidence and knowing exactly where you're at. Yeah. And I knew that at that point right there, I wasn't the barber he needed me to be at that shop. So it's like, hey, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And, let's definitely stay in touch and see how things go in the future. But wow, what a shop that is. And to go through what you had to go through to get through the school, based on what you're just telling me here, I mean, you had to push through. You took the long route. You had to go through it bit by bit to make it work. Check what's going on right now. Those guys have got to be really, really, really pleased with your story, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of trials and tribulation, and a lot of getting reset and rebuilding, and just kind of knocking through the walls, man, of anxiety, just let alone anything else. Like, sometimes it's just like, man, like, why am I so worried? Like, I've done this before. I've been through a lot worse than this. Like, just any little thing, sometimes you just wonder. You're just like, man, why are you even stressing over this? Come on, you've been through a lot.
Because we do.
No
because
doubt.
you care.
Right.
do.
Yeah, that's what it is.
How long have you been cutting?
I've only been cutting for 5 years professionally.
Get out, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm still pretty green in this. So, yeah,
Isn't it amazing to be in an industry where you can be in it for 5 years and still be new at it?
right. Yeah. I feel like I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm just getting started.
Yeah. And I think it's Craig Charles who said it first. New barbers don't get their stride till we're at it 2 or 3 years in it.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
we start feeling our stride.
Yeah, that's a big thing. So I have something to talk about that, but before we go any further, we got to get into your background, Dave.
Okay.
So let's start from where you were born and where you kind of grew up.
Okay. I grew up over by Perimeter Mall.
Okay, so not
here in
very
Atlanta,
far.
in North Atlanta. And this is, you can tell I'm not exactly 20 years old anymore, although I tell people I've been 29 for a good long time. The actual age is 53.
53, awesome.
53 years old, and I'm having a blast with this. Back then, all that really good stuff across the street from the mall, the Crown Ravinia and all this other stuff, it was a cow pasture.
Wow.
It was literally a cow pasture back then. And I remember seeing this chimney in the middle and sometimes wondering, did they have a house there and take the house down, or did someone get hungry and just decide to cook them up right there on the field? I had no idea. So I'm sitting looking, it's like, wow. So I grew up there, and I went to Avondale High School as Performing Arts Central. That's where I learned to do a lot of my music, a lot of my playing, things like that, and work through there. And went and joined the Navy. Now, this is about where the time where the balls can start bouncing all over the freaking place. All right.
Right.
So I joined the Navy, went to the Navy bands, got stationed in Japan and Seattle for most of the time. And man, what a great time.
No, wait. Did you have any kind of like influence to go into the military? What about your folks or anything like that?
Not really from the folks. I've got a lot of military in the family, but one of the honor bands that I had gone to over the University of Georgia, the conductor for this particular symphonic band was he was a colonel in the Air Force music program.
Okay.
And I talked to them and said, here's why I play. And at that time, I was more of a symphonic player than a jazz player, and I was playing different horns and things like that. And he said, well, for what you're doing, military works, because you can go to college and you can pay to go to college and try to get the scholarship and all that, and you can do all that stuff. Go out there and follow the same path as everyone else follows, or you can get into the military bands. You can audition for them and get in there and play there. And for what you're doing, where it specializes what you're doing, and I was doing low reeds in the symphonic situation, is very different from what I ended up doing. But based on that, I started talking to the Navy guys, and I talked to the Marines as well. The Navy, they looked at my ASVAB scores, and the ASVAB scores were pretty crazy high. And they see me coming in, it's like, oh wow, high ASVAB, yeah. So what would you like to do? I want to be in the band.
Now, what about music influence? Did you have anything there?
As far as going into the military from there, or just music influence, period? Just
music, period. Any kind of artistic influence or musical influence there?
You know what? It's kind of crazy. So when I first started playing, the band director had me playing clarinet.
Okay.
And somewhere along the way, because I've always liked bass sounds and things like that, and I learned there's a bass clarinet. I said, hey,
wow.
I'd like to try this thing out. Can I do it? And he brought me a bass clarinet to try. I was like, oh, I like this axe. And so I started working with that. And during my classical days, I started listening to a lot of cello music and trying to play cello music on the bass clarinet, which actually translates pretty well.
Okay,
Then I saw a jazz band, talked to the band director with that particular band, and he said, well, you should pick up the saxophone, start playing tenor sax. You're playing bass clarinet, play tenor sax. And I started playing both those horns. And as I got into the Navy and I started playing there, is more jazz oriented. And I started listening to more and more people, more and more musicians, and really, like you say, getting the feet wet. Brand new musician. Let's see if we can figure this thing out. While I'm in these bands with these really great musicians, these really great players. And I think probably the best influence I got musically was actually when I was stationed in Seattle.
Okay.
About three of the guys there. Tim Blunk. Was probably my absolutely best friend in the entire Navy experience. He and I mean, we were two peas in the pod. It was great. We did all kinds of things. He was a trumpet player, and his brother Dan was a sax player who was just flat out amazing. And Dan was the one who actually reached his hand out and said, "Hey, let me help you and get learning how to do these things." Says, "I see what you're trying to do." And so now Dan's trying to help me. Tim and I were being good friends. Dan's trying to help me. Another guy out there named Dave Langett, who Dave Langett was the kind of guy, he had this saxophone sound, which is like, I am just charging and taking over the freaking world. Here we go. And he would open up opportunities for me. It was great. They didn't introduce me. Dan, another fella, and I had gone to Jazz Alley out in Seattle, which is one of the jazz bars they had out there. And they had a couple players there, and one of them was from Olympia. I don't know if you know the Saturday Night Live band back in the day when they had a saxophone player who just played like the stratosphere all the time.
You hear it all the time.
His teacher.
No way.
And now I'm studying with this guy.
They don't have the SNL band anymore like that?
I think they do, but I don't think it's kind of like
it's not the same guy.
It's not the same guys, I don't think.
Okay.
But
yeah, I guess over the years they kind of have to transform.
Well, they've been at it for years.
I know, yeah. I mean, what is SNL without that sound? Without that band at the beginning?
Yeah. It's like, here we go. It's the band. We know it's there. It's like the old Tonight Show. You knew it was there from the band. The Tonight Show now with the Roots playing. You know it's them. It's the identity, the whole music situation.
That's got to be difficult for the Roots to actually like record music, because before the writer's strike, of course, like what's their schedule? Do they get off like 1 week a month? I feel like
maybe,
because I feel like they do a rerun like 1 week out of the month, and then everything else is like that day. And so I'm just like, when are these guys like? They get a week off at a time. How do they record music if they put out an album? And they've put out like at least 3 albums since they've had that gig.
When you love what you're doing so much, does it really work?
Yeah.
To those guys there, it's probably nothing to say, hey guys, let's get in and jam and put together some stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
the gig they have, the Jimmy Fallon gig, like that probably becomes more work, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's,
I think so.
Tight deadlines every day. I wonder when it like kind of runs its course, because they're pretty involved in the show too. So that's
I noticed they keep doing little different things. Like one of my favorite things they ever did, this is years ago, when they would actually all squeeze into this little schoolroom set and play music on kindergarten toys. It's like that's the first time I heard Blurred Lines.
little
yeah, is that playing on that? Like,
that's hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see the little xylophone or something like.
Yeah. They had a lot of fun. They're just doing little things. I think those little changes ups, I think they break the monotony. At least for a musician, it did for me.
Right.
Where in the Navy we did ceremonies, we did PR gigs. We would do the shows for the dances and things like that. And it's because things were broken up all the time. We weren't doing the same thing all the time that it really worked out well.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine they probably see something like that.
How long were you in the Navy?
8 years.
8 years. That's a good run.
Yeah, it was a good run.
What was the transition like, finishing up? Were you kind of like, this is kind of ran its course, I'm looking to move on to something else, or was it hard to kind of move on?
It wasn't hard to move on. I'll just put it this way. You can have really good leadership in any place and things work really well. And you can have really bad leadership and things become a chore really bad.
For sure.
And about my 6th year in, we had a guy who came in and he basically did a change of command ceremony for the band. And okay, so you do a ceremony, fine. You got a new officer in charge, that sort of thing. So imagine a new person taking over at the barbershop who basically couldn't cut for nothing. Didn't even know what a good haircut looks like. He tried cutting for all these places here, could never succeed. But now he's your boss and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
The guy came in and he did a speech. And this is the day when I realized, okay, I'm done. He says, so I've been in the Navy before, and I couldn't get promoted to chief. I was in for all these years, couldn't get promoted to chief, so I got out of the Navy. After that, I went and got my college degree. I got a doctorate in music. I couldn't make it on the outside, so I came back. They made me an officer, and here I am. This is my first band.
Well, at least he was transparent.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't fake the funk.
I really want to think he was trying to be motivational and positive. But the only thing I can think in my head is like, you gotta be kidding me. Right. It's like, I'm not doing another 18 years of this.
Yeah.
So
it's like, I think this shit's ran its course a little bit with this, especially with this guy.
It's done.
And he still lasted a couple of years with that guy, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I survived. I survived. He and I, at that point, my attitude just kind of kicked in there. It's like, all right, that's it. I'm done. And you can see what a negative attitude can do, how pervasive it is.
Oh, yeah.
And hindsight being 2020, if someone had been able to convince me at that time that the BS that happens on the inside also happens on the outside, and been able to get that through my skull, then I probably would have run 20, 30 years and just said, all right, let's just roll with it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But I can also look back on and see just how quickly negative attitude can actually affect an entire crew. Which is why in a barbershop, if you got that one guy who's really just messing, he's got that wrong attitude, get him out,
Right. Once people start huddling up and shit like that, you're like, oh boy, what are we doing right now, guys? What's going on?
It's nuts. And I don't have any regrets about or anything like that. It's just one of those things where I can look at it now from the experience which I have now and see it even more clearly than I could see when I was actually in the middle of it all.
For sure.
And that was a really neat way to. It's really neat when you can actually look back on past gigs and see actually what transpired and see from a different mindset.
No doubt. So then what was next? What were you like? Okay, what am I going to do now?
Oh yeah, the background, right? So I got out. There wasn't any call in the city of Atlanta for a saxophone player who could steer a submarine. So I went going to.
So you were trying to play professionally out.
Actually, I sold my horns when I left Seattle.
No, really?
Yeah, I was done. It's like,
why?
What? I was done.
Just
it
didn't
had
have
run its course.
Gotcha.
The thing which I really had loved doing had been turned into a chore. And so it's like, you know what? I had a couple of really nice horns, and I got a couple of guys. It's Seattle. There's musicians all over the place. Guys, keep the music playing. Buy these horns. Let's do this. And so came back over here, went into advertising sales, and here's where the ball starts bouncing. Follow the bouncing ball. I got tired of the ad guys messing up my ads, so I taught myself how to do graphic design. Then I wound up doing graphic design at the ad agency. Then I wound up being the production manager at a different spot. Did some freelance, came on as a production coordinator for a newspaper, went and did some more freelance, was rehired by the agency I'd been with before to do some new projects with them. Finished my run with them and started doing more freelance work. And I ran into a guy who would become a really strong mentor in my life, but he wanted me to become the director of marketing for his restaurant. And I said, okay, sure. Because, it's like if you're a director of marketing for a restaurant, you're doing a whole lot of other things. You're probably not going to be doing the marketing, at least in this situation.
Yeah.
So here I am. I'm running restaurants and learning about different kinds of businesses.
Multiple restaurants.
I'm sorry?
Multiple restaurants.
Yeah, I got restaurants, clubs. Is a interesting thing. Hated every minute of it because that just wasn't my industry. But I was still. It's like, let's go. Let's go. Make
what kind of restaurants are we talking?
One was a Brazilian restaurant, and then one was a nightclub, which is really interesting in the area.
Nightclub life.
Oh,
the director of marketing for a nightclub. Walk me through a day in the life of a nightclub director of marketing.
Well,
just a regular Saturday or something.
I'm sorry.
Just like a regular Saturday night or like
a regular Saturday night. Well, being as I had already left the club the night before at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I would show up around noon, and I'd help to run the lunch shifts, things like that. make sure all the things. We were in operational mode at that time, so I wasn't director. I wasn't doing the marketing at that time. I was involved in the actual operations. So make sure the DJ booth is all set, all those things. Make sure all the tech's working in the shop there. Make sure all the cameras are working and everything there. And then in comes the influx, and just trying to make sure no one got killed.
Right.
Being that guy, keep my eyes open, and it was really interesting because a lot of times I'd be in the DJ booth and I was tasked with watching the bar, from out there, just trying to see if there's any kind of shadiness going on. And it was really interesting because I've never really been a club guy. It's never been my thing, but it was really fascinating seeing how that whole thing worked, the whole operation. And you learn some of the neat secrets from the inside. Like, have you ever heard people talk about, and you've been around musicians, you've heard about the contracts. I want 9 Evian bottles lined up in a row in the middle of the table. I want that bowl of M&Ms, no green ones, things like that.
It's like,
I think it's
guys, I need some elevation or some elevation. We got to get these M&Ms elevated.
Bring this. One of the GMs of the club there, he said, he showed it to me in a different light. Yeah, they're not just being a-holes here, that's not what they're being about. It's a visual for them to be able to look. Because if they go where the band's going to be or who's performing and they can see there's not 9 bottles lined up in a row, or if they look at that M&M's thing and there's a green one in there, or they see green ones in there, and these things are not their own lineups. They're packed inside the contract. They're able to look and say, you know what? They missed these details. All right. Everything's suspect. Check every single thing. And that's
so you had to be like De Niro in Casino. Be like, I want an equal amount of blueberries in the muffins.
It's one of those things that you have to look at this thing. It's like, okay, let's make sure we got all things in a row,
Right.
And it was really a very humbling experience.
So at what point were you like, are we going to get back to the marketing part of this position, or am I just going to run operations?
As it came along.
Right.
I was still with that guy who wound up being a mentor, and that's really why I stayed there, because I was working with him.
Okay.
And that's why I dealt with that whole industry. Just because
So how long was that you dealt with that?
That was about 8 or 9 years.
Oh wow, that was a good run.
It was a pretty good chunk.
Yeah.
And then when I got out, I went back into freelance graphic design. It's like, we're done. I'm going to start doing this. But I did it from the side of doing websites instead of selling business cards and things like that. And a couple years into it, about maybe 3 or 4 years into it, the same guy, he said, hey, listen, I've got a store here which I need to rebrand and renovate. Can you help me with that? And that started a whole 6 or 7 years that we stayed together after that. And we did our thing after that. And it was the saltwater aquariums. It was a really interesting industry. And like I said, follow that bouncing ball.
Wow.
So we did that. And then when I finally left, my mom was actually in really bad health. And so I basically, I walked away. It's like, hey, listen, I've got to go take care of family. It doesn't matter how hard we work. We still need to take care of family.
She was in Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay. So
when we were there, we took care of things there. And I had gone back into the freelance websites for a while. And then one day my wife says, hey, I partner, and she's a cosmetologist. Now,
oh wow,
a long time before that, she had mentioned, hey, you want to look at barbering, and I knew everything back then, so I didn't do it. But she says, I partner with a barber. He does those prosthetic hair replacements.
Oh yeah,
and it'd be good for you to be able to
price the industry.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. And the idea was I could talk to other barbers and say, hey, look, don't lose the money because you don't do the service. Come work, let's work together here. So you're making some money when everyone eats.
Yeah.
And while we were talking, we said, well, why don't I go to barber school so that I can learn to speak with barbers, as opposed to some outside sales rep.
Right.
Second week of school, it's like, you know what? Hey, I'm having too much fun doing this. We're going to change plans. I'm going to go and do this for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. You got the, yeah. Sometimes
I got hooked on hardcore.
Yeah, exactly. You caught the bug quick. That's why, like, as soon as you just get a little bit of momentum in barbering, it's like, wow, let's keep this going. And it's just like a building block. You just keep building up, just, your skills, your knowledge, your confidence. You know, as soon as you take some time off, it seems like that incline just gets paused and then just starts sliding back down the hill. And then you're like, all right, I'm back in the shop.
It's never status quo. There's no such thing really. You're getting better or you're getting worse. It never stays the same.
Right. No doubt. Yeah. And like even financially too.
Mhm.
Like I work Mondays. I work 4 days a week. And so if there's a holiday on a Monday, all of a sudden 3 days a week is not enough days to work to make enough money. I feel like no matter how expensive the haircuts are.
Mhm.
So like, you know, I still feel like I'm playing catch up from Labor Day. Just
Right.
being off. You get that little holiday like dead spot too. You know what I mean? That holiday hangover where like the week after Labor Day is kind of dead for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell's wrong with these people? Where are they at?
It's like, hello, guys. You're looking
Yeah.
shaggy. Get over here.
Yeah, it's like you definitely do. I know you're due.
And then they come in. Yeah, I've gone away a couple extra weeks here. Yeah, you have.
So talk about testing in Georgia. What was your barber exam like once you were finishing up school?
So my school was, is very non-traditional. It was designed to come in, do what you need to do, get ready for the test, and go take the tests. The exam for me, I was in school for about 9 months before I came out and took my exams. And the written test, I went in there, did the written test, the whole check in with security and all that stuff. Go do your multiple choice tests on the computer and everything.
Yeah. How many questions was it? 150?
About 150.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 150. And then when I did the practical, and by the way, the practical does every single thing that the Candidate Information Bulletin has. If it was in the bulletin, you were doing it on the practical.
Okay.
I walked in at 9, didn't walk out to like 1:30 or 2.
Right.
We were there, and these guys were not playing around. 9 people walked in, 6 people took the test.
Oh yeah.
They turned people away.
Did you have to supply your model for your practical?
Oh, you're gonna love this. 2 mannequin heads.
Oh, 2.
Yeah, had to bring in 2 mannequin
One
heads.
was a perm.
So there was a roller set. Well, so the first one was for the hair cutting and shaving and facial massage. Then you get rid of that one there, and then you bring on the one that you're going to use for the rest of the test. As far as your thermal curling, your blow drying. Let's see what else do we have at that time. The roller set, we had that in there. We had relaxer version, relaxer retouch, color version, color retouch. It was the entire gamut. We ran the entire gamut of the test.
It's interesting to just hear how different states vary, because we supplied our model, live models. We did a full shave, full haircut, gentleman's haircut.
Mm-hmm.
But in the curriculum I was under, we didn't have to do colors. They just removed the roller set. And so I was like, I was just blessed to not have to do those rollers, which I'm sure there's no way on test day, these roller sets are going pristinely to plan. Like there's no way.
There's nothing going pristinely to plan on the test.
Right. So when you tested, were you around your peers from school at all?
Oh no.
Never?
Oh no, it was me. It was me, and
they were by yourself.
There were 5 other people in the room, and 5 other people taking the test.
5, yeah.
3 proctors and a couple cameras. And one of the guys who came in, his mom came in to be his live model, and they turned him away, because you can't have that sort of thing.
Yeah.
One guy,
mannequin.
It looks like it appears they've added foils to the test now.
Oh, they added it now? So yeah, what's the test like in Georgia now?
Same thing, except they've added that, and they've also added a blood exposure incident.
That's important.
Love that, yeah. And the whole thing is, okay, you have cut your finger, you're simulating, you have cut your finger. You're still able to continue to work, and no blood has got, no one's been contaminated, the workspace is not contaminated, no one's contaminated. Go.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh.
Anytime I've cut my finger, whether I remember my very first barber gig, my very first shop, I shut the razor on my pinky, and I was like, why would I do that like that? It made no sense. I haven't done it since like that. And you know, I was like, this is going to be bad, but I know I have about 10 more seconds before this thing gets this thing gets to flowing. So, you know, you're just nonchalantly like, yeah, okay. All right, buddy, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I got to run in the back real quick or something.
Oh God. Oh yeah.
Right.
I have gotten myself with the scissors over and over and over again
Oh,
in all
yeah.
kinds of ways. Haven't done it with a razor yet, but the scissors, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like I tell clients, I was like, you know, anything with the razor, I'm more likely to cut myself than you, even though I've only done it once. But yeah, the shears, I mean, yeah, to this day, I definitely, you know, maybe you're falling a little behind and you're rushing and, you know, you might, that's when it always happens for me.
Yeah.
I think 100% of the time I've cut myself is when I was running behind and rushing.
Pretty much. Yeah. We do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
And you know, the really sharp ones, you don't even realize at the point. You just know something happened. You're not really sure. And then a couple minutes later, it's like, oh, that's what happened.
Yeah. I wear gloves in the shop. Are you bare hand in the shop?
I like gloves.
Yeah, I wear gloves and I feel like I cut myself a lot more without gloves. I don't know if it's just that like mini barrier that you're trying to prevent from like actually cutting your glove because there's still like a, you know, a very thin surface that you could snip with that glove. And I feel like once I put the gloves on, once I've worked full with the gloves, it happened a lot less. So I don't know if there's anything to that or not.
Yeah, I think there's got to be because my gloves get cut up all the time.
Oh yeah,
my fingers are fine. And I'm
I have to wear them OJ tight. I always say. I was like, everyone's like, "What size do you want?" I'm like, medium. I gotta have them OJ tight because
you know the one that gets me
like
is when you get a little bit of a cut and then the comb just catches it every time you're trying to comb.
Oh, dude,
yeah,
you nailed it. You nailed it. Especially like that, like you know, that like end tooth of the comb. It's always that one.
Yeah. Yes, and you feel like it's like,
right. But you just like power through it. You just like go right through the glove. You end up cutting the glove more half of the time.
Yeah,
once it's open.
I got to the point now. I'll just rip that finger. I was like, all right, let's go.
Right. Yeah, dude. I put the glove back on sometimes. Like I lay them back on, or I lay them back for a shave or something, and I take the blow dryer to my hand and inside the next glove and kind of blow it open, and then it just slides open. Slides in a little easier, but half the time there's still some sort of clamminess going on.
Right.
It's tough to get it back on.
You learn about clamminess with these gloves. There's no question about that.
Oh, absolutely. So okay. So you took the test. You passed first try, right? Flying colors.
Oh, so yeah. So
yeah, what happened there?
There was a transition between tests going on at that time.
Okay, so they updated the curriculum.
They updated everything.
Okay,
and so like 2 weeks before I was taking my exam, so I repracticed everything with the new test.
Oh wow!
And I go in, I'm all set. You know, mannequins. Sorry, they looked at heads. They inspect them. Okay, you're good. All right, you're here. All this other stuff. They start doing that opening speech. You know, because you know they can't. In the CIB, you know, you have the script. You have the script of what they're going to say, so you can practice this whole thing. You can simulate the exam as many times as you want with that script.
Okay.
And I started hearing the old
script.
We
didn't have that.
What?
What you're talking about, the script, we didn't have any of that.
Oh.
We just had our CIB barber instructors telling us.
Oh my gosh. So this whole document here, it goes through the entire test. It's like, you will now perform this exam here. You'll be expected to do these things. Yeah. You will do this. Yeah. Step that when you're finished. The instructions will be read or will be repeated. Then you go through there, and you would. I'm actually teaching students, giving them mock exams with that script that they're going to use.
Okay.
So I'm hearing the script, and it's the old script, and immediately I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I know. Okay. I thought I had 40 minutes to do this haircut. I got 30 now. And the entire back half of
that's interesting.
Yeah. And the whole back end of the kit now had to be rearranged because I knew they were going to be doing some different things. And I'm still having enterprise. So in the back of my head, this entire test, I'm thinking, man, I'm going to have to explain to the owners how I failed this test. This is not cool.
Right.
But I wound up passing that test, and there were no problems with it. But it was like 6 or 7 hours of just pure hell the whole time in my head. It's like I failed this test, not good.
I got lucky because I was on both sides of me. I was surrounded by fellow barber students that in the same school I was in. And I think I tested with there was 15 plus people in there. You kind of had pockets where you weren't being watched. And that was just like, yeah. At one point you settle in, you're like, this is fine. This isn't bad at all. They're still like checking, see if you left a corner or an edge on, the parietal ridge or something. But, yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, of course. like it normally is.
I think I've enjoyed it a lot better that way. I was such a nurse. Like I'm literally knocking my mannequin head off the table, time and time again. There was one point where I ran up against the table and my entire set just fell right off the front. It's like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah,
I'm so screwed.
You're like fumbling around like 10 times, throw it across the room.
Yeah, I saw that score at the end. It's like, do I have the right paper? Like, hang on, you sure? Green, last name Green.
Yeah. So after that, you were a free agent, right?
Yes.
So the world was your oyster. What was your strategy from there?
I followed my wife's advice. Go work at Great Clips for 6 months.
Good man. You know the credo: happy wife, happy life. To listen a little bit.
You learn that. But I'll tell you what.
So Great Clips.
I moved. I got interviewed, and and by the way, I didn't know how to cut for nothing. It's like I knew how to operate the tools. That's it.
Yeah, no judgment. That's honestly not a bad path to start with.
No, it's not. And I went in for an interview, and they brought me on. Went to my first day of work. Okay, cool. Had all my stuff there ready to go. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Cool. Got a call that night. Yeah, the whole country's shutting down for COVID. So, yeah, you don't need to show up.
Dude, that was that at that point in time.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me.
Oh, my God. Dude, we should have opened the podcast with this.
Oh, it's crazy. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me here. By the time we reopened, of course, all my tools are in that shop.
Yeah.
I'm not doing nothing for these 2 or 3 months.
Oh,
it's
no.
like, oh, wow, that's what these things are. Cool.
Yeah.
Now, when I went in, the lady who had interviewed me, she said, okay, well, we got a full-on training schedule here. And the person I'm going to have you go to work with, she knows she's taken a lot of people from brand new out of barber school to knowing how to cut. During those 3 months, the training system was completely gone. And the lady who I was assigned to had left. So now it's like, okay, now what? Where do I go? And it was amazing because the manager I was working with, she didn't know how to work with a brand new barber student. She knew how to take someone who'd been cutting for a couple of years and work from there. And so I struggled a lot those first several months.
Of course.
I remember one of my first haircuts was a little old lady with a beehive haircut, and she left with about as much hair as I have. And she still hates me to this day.
You still know her? That's awesome.
Oh, I still in touch with these guys. Are you kidding?
Great.
Macy Loven over in Kennesaw, she is one of the best cutters I've ever worked with.
Nice.
Katie, the assistant manager where I was at, she and I wound up, another one of those things where someone completely called me out, but we wound up being some of the best friends ever. I remember there was one day where, she'd about had it with my lack of skills cutting with scissors. And I remember she just looked me right in the face and said, you know what? I don't know how someone can be put on the floor without even knowing how to use scissors.
Damn.
And that started a domino effect over the next week or two. That's a kick in the gut. Kick in the gut. But I've seen these sort of things before. So, it's like, I'm not saying you're wrong,
Yeah. We got a straight shooter on our hands. All right.
Yeah. So I wound up, they found people like Kim Williams over in the Austell area. Let's go work with her for a while so I can learn how to do the actual scissor cuts because she knew how to train people how to do that. Veronica Garlington over in Kennesaw. She's a barber and a fantastic cutter. She helped me take what I had learned in barber school and actually translate it into cutting. I had a lot of help going through this. I stayed there for 18 months. Cut over 3,000 heads.
Like one of the killers in our shop, Julie Santos. I mean, just like I worked right beside her. I got to see our chairs were so close. It's like the tightest area in the shop. So like if two people are working in those stations, like if you're doing a shave, you might be back to back, like doing the shave. So like when I was like slow, of course, when I started, I would watch her a lot and I would see just how much of a technician she was. And she started in Great Clips. She came to this country from Colombia and she started in Great Clips and just honed her skills there. And eventually, we had a little transition in our shop, and unfortunately she moved on and she's in her own suite now, which she deserves. And she's at that stage of her career for sure. So, I pay her a visit every now and then, say hi. And, there's an example of just someone who could just climb right up and they started in Great Clips. So there's no problem at all there.
Great Clips was a very smart move for me to make.
Yeah.
I mean, again, 3,000 heads in the first year. There's no other job I'm working at where I'm going to cut 3,000 heads, get that many reps, get paid for it, and be accountable for none of it.
Right.
And have a support system there. Hey, if he screws you up, we'll fix it.
Absolutely.
There's no other place really that's going to happen. The way I used to describe it is we were paid like waitresses.
Okay.
Cheap hourly pay plus tips.
Okay.
And for where I was at that time, though, that didn't matter to me. The pay was adequate. It was all about getting the reps. I'm getting reps. I'm getting practice. I'm getting all this stuff. And eventually I got to the point where I maxed out there to where the only way I can make more money is to really get a whole lot faster cutting.
That's what I was going to ask. Was it walk-ins only or was it appointment?
Well, they didn't have appointments. They had a check-in system. So I had a lot of walk-ins because that's where the whole company is built on. Hey, just walk in, get your haircut and go.
Right.
And they have a check-in system where people can check in on their way in so they don't have to wait so long when they get there. So then just get called in line and you just go right through and just whoever is there first, just go from there.
So, I mean, how many barbers did you work with and stylists?
In there is usually anywhere from 2 to 4 of us.
Okay, not too many.
Yeah.
But you still got that camaraderie feel and that whole bond that's super important.
Katie and I will literally, if Eye of the Tiger is ever playing, because is like every single day you have the same playlist. She will jump on the phone, record it, send it to me. I'll do the same thing if it ever pops up in my shop, and we'll just it's like, yeah, here we go. We have that camaraderie. It is fantastic. Yeah, and you see how people develop and how people's lives go on. Macy dropped 70 pounds in a year.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
Healthily.
Yeah. That's super difficult
to see someone be able to, and I know what it's like, and that's a lot of work to make that happen. And you see this, and she's got this other store she's doing over in Great Clips, and it just you see things like that, and just people who you've worked with in the past, like you said, the camaraderie, people you've worked with in the past, and you're still great friends with them.
Yeah, it's just something that, like, being in the service, dude. I mean, it's just something that really a non-barber or anyone not in hair can understand. Like, it's just like it can be anyone from any walk of life. You don't know them at all. Just like me and you, like, just like all my guests. I knew maybe like 7 of my guests, like, personally. So like, it's just crazy how easy it is to talk to someone, how easy it is to relate to another barber. And all you got to do is just, it could just start with bitching and moaning about something with an experience. And then
we've all fought the same battles.
Yeah, exactly. We've all been on that stage and that embarrassment and had those awful haircuts. And, it's an automatic respect for another barber because we know the hardships that they went through to get to where they are.
Exactly. That's why it's very hard to disrespect another barber. Well, at least I used to think it was. You see a lot of people doing it, but generally, if you've actually gone through it and you see a barber doing what it is, there is so much respect involved. It's like, wow.
That's why I can never do it
so well. There's no jealousy involved. I want to know how you're doing it because it's amazing.
I think, Cole Cuts on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with that one.
I think he's out of Houston. Mm-hmm. He's a pretty big personality on Instagram. That's what he posted recently. He's like, you know, don't be the client that comes to me and starts talking bad about their old barber, and that's how you like initiate the conversation, because you're not going to get me to play along with that. Like anytime someone's like, yeah, my last barber, I'm automatically like putting you in a box of clients where all of the clients go into that box until you prove you're not worthy of that box, because you're not going to get me to be like, yeah, man, you know, I could be that guy you're talking about with your next barber. Like, who knows?
Easily. See, that's a red flag. Someone comes in and they're complaining right from the get-go. Guess what? Because if they'll do it to them, they'll do it to us just as easily.
Right. Sometimes they're talking on the phone, making the appointment about their old barber before they even get in the chair. And I'm like, I mean, if I could like paint a red flag, a picture of it, that would be it.
Yeah.
So like
don't mess me up like the last guy did.
This is not easy. This is not an easy game. This is not an easy trade. Like, we glorify it and make it seem like the best thing because it is, but it's a process. It is a art. It's not easy. It's not easy to get to any point of any height that you can get to in this industry. You have to get the reps in. You have to put yourself out there, and you know, there's so many layers to it. And so that's why
what's
that?
Gonna piss people off. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
every haircut's not gonna turn out great.
Right. Hey, guess what? If it happens, well, crap. Well, now we're skilled enough to work around that and make it work. I mean,
right.
Think about it. You know, in the government, I think it's like 75% accuracy is considered good. What if in the barber industry we had that same standard? Could you imagine heads walking around our shops?
That's a good way to put it. It's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and our work.
That's all you really aim for, though, in that first time client. You're not going to knock it out of the park for the first guy. You know, if you hit that 75, 80 good, and then maybe your personality, you can kind of reel them in a little bit, and the customer service angle, and get them coming back. And then, you know, if it's something you know they're pleased with, but you know you're not quite satisfied with it, I always let them know. I'm like, hey, man, I'm just learning your hair. This can only get better. This is going to get better 100%. Just keep coming back. Sometimes they're like, oh, dude, sorry, I hit the wrong button on the tip. And I'm like, dude, just come back. Come back.
Man.
That's all I have. Right.
Hey, when that happens. Or the momentary lapse, like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Speaking of that, let's talk about barbers with a bad memory.
All right, talk about it. Let's go for it. I heard.
Sometimes you can be in the middle of a haircut, and like someone's like, yeah, nothing off the top, and just like you're wetting the hair, and you take that first snip, and you're like, oh man. And then you're just like, yeah, man, I'm just hitting the ends. It's to keep it healthy. It's to keep it healthy. It's good for you.
So, yeah, back when I was doing computer work, I could hide behind the computer.
Yeah.
This is right in my face. I had a mentor out in Seattle who used to say, the dullest pen remembers better than the sharpest mind. And so I've learned to take notes.
Yes.
And one of the things that I do with my clients, because that bad memory thing, and I've been trying to make this thing work for a long time. And I finally got about 2 or 3 weeks ago to where I know exactly what to do to make this thing work. So what I would do is I use Microsoft OneNote in my phone, take the notes of exactly what I did. I'm going to take pictures of their haircuts, and I'm telling them this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm telling them, here's what I'm doing. So next time you come in, you can say, hey, let's do the same thing we did last time, or make it longer, make it shorter. And if there's anything which I did on the cut, I'll make sure I have that on there. Any problem spots, I'll make sure I zero in on those. So when they come in, it takes down a lot of the mental gymnastics.
For sure.
And by the way, that's one of the terms that Stan Bilski, the saxophone guy from earlier on, that's one of his favorite phrases, mental gymnastics, to get those out of the way and to be able to take care of what you need to take care of. So now these guys can come in, and we already have the reference point. Where do we need to go from there? There's no way I'm remembering any of that stuff.
Right.
I could be in the middle of a cut and I'll forget the guy's freaking name. It's not fun.
That's tough. I'm awful at names, dude. Like, oh man. See, sometimes I even know the name. I know the name, but I'm still gonna look at my little POS to make sure that I'm not wrong.
Right. Now, have you ever called someone and someone else answered and got in your chair?
Oh man. We actually had a little switcheroo It was actually a mistake made by the assistant. Gave me another barber's client and gave him my client. And actually, he got hooked up because it was a lesser service what I was getting from his client. He was just getting like a bald head, like a zero, like buzz cut.
Right.
And I ended up talking him into, because the other guy was getting a haircut beard combo. And so I ended up talking him into getting his beard done. So it worked out. But like that's a pretty big fumble sometimes. But you know,
Oh yeah.
like no one's perfect 100%.
This happened when I was in Great Clips. So you know, I went up to the front, and you know, people up there, you know, impatient or whatever. All right, hey Jeff, you know, I'm ready for you, Jeff. Guy comes. All right, let's go, Jeff. All right, Jeff, let's go do this. All right, cool. Take him back. All right, so I'm getting, and we had these little slips with the numbers on there. What had been done. So last time, just do like you did last time. Now I'm looking at the notes here, and his head, they do not match.
Oh
Let me
yeah.
make sure what we got going on here. So Jeff, we got the, you know, I've got this, and no, like last time. Just come out here, just like last time.
Yeah, they don't know what
Yeah,
the hell you did.
Right now, this is before I grew my set of balls.
Yeah.
This is pre balls. All right.
I'm still pretty nutless. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, I know. I'm working on it. So I go, I slap that one guard. He's like, "What are you doing?" Same thing we did last time, Jeff. I'm not Jeff.
Oh boy.
What are you doing answering to the name?
Yeah. I said Jeff 4 times. What are you doing?
Like, you had a whole bunch of.
But back to growing a pair there.
Right.
So my coworker Julie, she was one to always tell me, she's like, dude, don't let that guy do, like, Matt, you're too nice. Like, you need to charge this guy what you should be charging him. And it's not even like, she would almost overdo it. You know what I mean? Like, we have a signature haircut tier that's 65,
Right.
but it's for skin fades. And if it was a half, she'd still charge the skin fade price. And I'm like, it's a half. Like, it's not going to take as long. And then she's like, no, you should do it like this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a pushover. I know. Someone being late, or someone like the 10-minute cutoff for being too late.
Yes.
You know, half the time 97% of the time I'm going to be like, all right, yeah, no, you're here. I get it. It's fine. I get it.
Here's how I started handling that, and it's worked out really well. Say it's 11:10. Yeah. Hey, look, I got someone coming 11:30. I got 20 minutes. Let's just. I'm not going to rush through this, but I gotta, I can't dilly dally. They get it, and they sit down, shut up, and let's just go to work. Let's get this thing in. And it's always, thanks for getting me in, even though it might not have been the awesomest haircut.
Yeah.
Now on this note though, and what we're just talking about being pushover, tomorrow morning, my first customer, I think he's a customer who I'm going to wind up firing. He's been late. He's been late a few times. He's been late a few times. His first text message to me was already late. It's like, I think it's pretty shitty. You guys make people prepay. No, you don't have to prepay.
Not off to a good start.
Not a good way to get this thing started. One of the last ones was he was booked in for Friday. 15 minutes late, I said, "Look, man, we got to do something about this here, because you're not going to get here. How far away are you?" Well, my next one comes in 15 minutes. He's like, "Well, I'll just reschedule then." And then he says, "And last time you rushed anyway, so it impacted the results." I'm thinking, dude, you're 10 minutes late for that one.
Yeah.
So like, tomorrow,
there's a reason why I was rushing.
Yeah, it's like tomorrow's going to, and the pen, I actually started using one of these guys, a little book, with notes. I got his entire schedule of all the appointments he's come in and how late he was for each one of them. And tomorrow's just got to be realistic when they say, "Look, these things going on," and you're sitting here talking to me like this is my problem.
Yeah,
I'm not everyone's barber. I stole that from Chris Bosio. Yeah, I'm not everyone's barber. One of the best lessons I learned: I don't have to be everyone's barber. Right. And I'm going to recommend that you need to find another barber, because I'm not going to be available to service you anymore. Yeah. And I think the conversation is going to happen tomorrow.
So you're going to be up front and just tell them. You're not going to duck them or pawn them.
I have no reason to.
See, sometimes I take the coward route. If they're 10, 12 minutes late, and I have a full book ahead, and it's just not going to work out, that's where the assistants come into play. I hide in the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Like, I'll be in the break room eating a sesame. What I've been eating these seaweed fucking bars lately.
Okay.
Trying to watch the figure there, Dave. I'm trying to work on it.
Feel you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I always tell people I fluctuate 5 pounds every other week.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah, I'm on the decline. I'm on the deficit route right now. So trying to get back
Nice.
at it. But yeah, I'll just hide in the back, man. I'll just let I'm like, if he comes in, let him know I'm out. So
Yeah.
I can hide behind that curtain a little bit. So that works out. But no, that's good that you're letting them know and you're standing your ground because yeah, dude, it's once it's turns into a habit and you let it slide 2-3 times, and then you got a problem.
Yeah, and what it is they think they're doing you. And now this kind of goes into a thing which I look at is like there is this thing where we're almost treating this like a war with our clients here, but that is one of those guys who treats you with disrespect, who literally
Yeah.
says, you know what, I am more important than what you got going on, and I don't care.
Right.
And you know what, my books stay pretty full. I don't need to have that kind of person in my
Yeah.
in my chair.
At
So,
one
when I
point,
first,
that's what you weigh. You're like, I don't need this. I
yeah,
don't need this shit. Things are going too good. I have too many good clients that don't deserve a shortened service by some asshole, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
there's always going to be assholes in your chair. Like,
yeah,
you
assholes.
have
I
to
can deal with
find a way to
assholes.
get rid of them.
Yeah, I can deal with assholes for a bit, but
Yeah.
and you know the thing about assholes, it is a rare breed because their whole thing is to try to prop themselves up at someone else's expenses or at someone else's expense.
Yeah.
There's a book I read way on back called The No Asshole Rule.
Okay.
And it's about building a sales team, how you conduct yourself, or building a company or whatever. And the number one rule is, they talk about the guy as like, do we want him on board during the hiring process or anything like that? Is he an asshole? And if he props himself up at the expense of someone else or puts someone else down for the purpose of keeping himself on a keel, something like that,
Yeah.
that's an asshole and he can't be brought on board.
Right. Well, yeah, it goes back to the throwing the old barber under the bus.
Yeah.
But I had this beard trim Monday. It was my first client of the day, and the funniest part, his name was Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
Like the quarterback for the LA Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And so at first I'm like, is this Matthew Stafford number one? And I was like, okay. They got a game literally Monday night tonight in LA. So I don't think that's him. Or was it in LA? It could have been Cincinnati, but either way, wasn't in Atlanta. But he came in and gave me his little background with his beard. He's got quite a large beard, probably hanging to maybe that far down or so. Wanted it shortened to about half or so, and molded and shaped. And that's one of my specialties. It's something I really enjoy doing. And for something like that, where I have the confidence, where I almost know I'm going to do a better job, because it's just the way I do it. I know people aren't doing it that way. Like, I feel good about that, and he loved it. But one of the horse story he told, he's like, I'm regrowing out the mustache. You got to listen to him too. He's like, I told the last guy to not just just a small amount off the mustache, because he's got one of those you can kind of curl, like it's that length. He could probably do it.
Okay.
And he told the last guy, he's like, just a smidgen off. I actually want to keep it on the lip. I don't want it that far off the lip. And so I listened to him. I just nipped away, and I asked him at the end, I was like, dude, is that short enough? I can take more if you need. And he's like, no, this is perfect. The last guy literally put like he literally went against the grain, just up, and like it's the first thing he did. And I was like, oh boy, yeah, that's no good. That's no good. But I was trying my best not to throw the guy under the bus too.
Yeah.
The other barber.
At the same time, sometimes you can avoid that just by listening.
Yeah.
Hey, we are in the service industry. What do they want? Let's try and give it to them.
You have to give that. You have to perform a service that's desired.
Yeah.
And if back to the memory, sometimes you forget. You're kind of like ask again.
Yeah.
Or tell them what you're doing before you do it. That's a big one too.
Yes.
I'm like, all right, I'm about to hit your mustache, man. Oh wait, we're not hitting the mustache. So it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I knew that.
To your point there, so you develop your banters and stuff like that. I refer to myself as a sportscaster type of barber because I'm going to tell them every single thing that's going on. If someone fumbles, you're going to know, all that.
It's a little
and we just
commentary.
kind of go through this, and I will ask them all kinds of questions, and I'll explain this to them. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions because I'd rather ask you a whole lot of questions and let you think I'm an idiot than just start cutting away and remove all doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have to know what these guys want. And I think there's way too many people just going out there and saying, "Oh, here's what I want to give you," and giving it to them, as opposed to figuring out what these guys really want to have.
Yeah. So in your professional career, you're 3 years in, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
How about that?
Dude, that's I love it because that's what's inspiring to me. Just like someone older like yourself that just like, they caught the bug. They love barbering, and no matter how early or how late, you can do it. And that's part of why I like sharing the story, because who would have thought, right, that you'd be here?
Hell, 53 years old, and I am having an absolute freaking blast.
Absolutely, man. So you're 3 years in, but say there's someone that's 5 years into their career and they're still not happy. What advice would you give them, or what would you say, or maybe even tell them what they're doing wrong? Because obviously something went wrong.
Something.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of that's going to depend on where it comes in. How's this conversation come along? Have they just had a really just rough day and they're on their feet and it's like,
right. That's
if it's just that sort of thing, that's one thing. This is an artistic field, and knowing where the guy is coming from is going to be so important. But if they're really unhappy after 5 years in industry, then they should make a change of some sort.
Yeah.
If they love the industry, but they just don't like doing what they're doing, find another vertical. I mean, we've got so many ways to be in the barbering industry other than being behind the chair.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of ways to do this. Or if you really just don't like, if you're done with cutting hair, go do something else. Do something else for a while. Try it out. Maybe catch a bug you want to come back. Maybe you go out and you find out things aren't so great. Or maybe you happen to screw up and you find someone that finds you and you really enjoy it.
Right.
And if you really enjoy what you're doing,
finds them. Yeah.
Yeah. If you enjoy it, if you have that peace when you're working, there's no amount of money that makes up for that.
100%. Yeah. I would say there's something that they did at the very beginning that they shouldn't have done, and now they're kind of in too deep and might not be able to repair the damage that's been done already. And so that's my advice for the people coming out of school. That's my advice for just new barbers in the out there in the world, that like, do your due diligence. Don't just dive into the first place you look. Some people get lucky doing that, but you kind of have to hunt around. You have to know what you don't want first before you know what you want, almost.
Exactly.
And then, 5 years in, the only unhappiness would be, that you should be dealing with is just, how can I get better? Like, I'm not satisfied. It's more than an unhappiness. You shouldn't want to settle. You know what I mean? You should always want to progress. So, 5 years in and you're not quite satisfied with where you're at, then a change needs to be made later on, instead of, if you made a good enough change to be in the position to where you're still happy, you're still tolerable to the industry, but you're looking to make, a change just to progress, that you have to do that at a certain point. When it is too, like,
yeah. As we're talking about it, I think about the lesson number 1 that when I start a new barber student, it's a 500-word essay. And I ask them, why do you want to be a barber? There's only 2 rules. The first one is money cannot be the reason.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to use money as a reason. It can't even be supporting. You can't use it, because we can make a living doing anything. Underwater basket weaving, being a server, being a CEO. We all make money. We all work. That can't be the reason. The other reason can't be because my dad was a barber, my family was a barber. You can't use that either. And that might be one that sticks on your fire. But I want you to take at least an hour. Don't come in 30 minutes. Take at least an hour. 500 words. Dig deep into this. I don't care if you bring in tomorrow. tell me why you want to be a barber.
Yeah.
And then what we would do, and especially when we had more than 2 or 3 students, everyone would read it out loud. The
Ooh.
reason they want to be a barber. Because you know what? There are days where we get on our feet and at the end of the day, the dogs are tired. We are hurting.
Yeah.
We may have jacked someone's head at the end of the night and we feel like shit for it.
Yeah.
We might be in a commission deal where, hey, we're not making enough money.
Yeah.
All kinds of things can happen. You might cut yourself really good. All kinds of stuff can go on. That why has got to be powerful. If you don't remember why it is that you got into barbering in the first place,
yeah,
then it's easy for all the other stuff to reach into you and knock you down. So as we're talking about this and conversing it through, if someone were to confide in me 5 years after they were in, I think one of the first questions I would ask them is, tell me why you got into barbering, and start a conversation there and see what it is and see if that will motivate them to either continue where they are or give them clarity enough to say, hey, yeah, I need to be doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah. People want to see the money too fast. Like you said on the first thing, it's like the money comes later. Right now is about the passion and the love and the building skills and to build relationships, clientele. Yeah. Like these are all skills that you develop that, that has to happen before the money. Like the money's not going to always be there. Like even when you do develop those skills, like you have to find new ways to bring in more money. So like, yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's just like, I couldn't believe I was going to get paid for it.
Right.
That's what I was like. That's how much I loved it and how much I wanted to do it for how long and how long I've been putting it off, which is why guys like you that I was in school with, older, I was so inspired by, because I was like, oh my God, like Terry's in here doing this. Like, well, I can't believe I thought I was too late. I was like 26 when I got in. So
nobody's ever too late to make changes.
Right.
Look at, I'm gonna use Madonna and Gwen Stefani.
Yeah.
I could probably even go into using Steven Tyler.
Right.
And a bunch of these other guys, right? And what they've done in their lives is they've reinvented themselves.
Yeah.
Sting, yeah, absolutely. Guys who've literally gone through and reinvented themselves. Madonna doesn't have 2 albums that she put out where she has the exact same persona.
Yeah.
Something has changed each time. Gwen Stefani, my gosh, going from no doubt to full on rap to going into production. Look how many times she has reinvented herself. And you see these guys go through. It's never too late to reinvent.
No doubt.
Never too late. And I don't care what the situation is. If your why is strong enough, if that is strong enough, you can reinvent yourself.
100%. So, Dave, I want to dive into your Instagram real quick before we go too long. So let me go ahead and pop.
Yeah, we've been hanging out for a while. How about that?
Yeah, I know, man. It goes quick. I told you. It goes super quick.
Right?
So here he is. Dave Cuts ATL is the handle. We'll put that on the bottom too. I really like your content. You do some different things. One thing I've always noticed is like your little tips, like how to ask for a haircut.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate these. These are super, like no hard line, 3 fingers up front. It's just telling the clients that follow you how to ask for a certain haircut.
Yeah.
Super useful. How did you kind of come along with that? I mean, you seem to come up with a lot of different content that's innovative.
One of my mentors back when I was in Seattle said, if you want to be kind of successful at something, look at what everyone else is doing and do the exact opposite.
Right.
If you look at a lot of barbers' Instagrams, it's all haircuts that they've done. And that's all it is. Or there's some party pics or whatever. And I'm not trying to throw any shots here, but when I pull up to someone's another barber's Instagram, it's all haircuts.
Yeah.
And so, and that is, by the way, a very strong thing. It's like, okay, cool. They're doing the kind of hair which I want to have done. I know this is the right guy. But how many times have we had someone in the chair said, I don't know how to explain what it is I want. I really don't know. So what this is, it's a way for me to be able to say, look, if this is what you're looking for, here's how to ask for it. These steps, these numbers, they mean something to us. I've had guys come in with the Instagram. I've had people come in with a website and show me, yeah, I want the 2SB. And it's like, all right, show me which one you're talking about here so I know which 2SB we're talking about here.
Right.
And it actually walks me through what it is they're looking for, and then I have a starting point with them. So it's very important that for someone online, people online aren't necessarily looking for, well, if they're looking for a barber, they want some kind of information of some sort. They want to be functional. That's my opinion on it. And so they want to be able to find out, like this, when are you open? What can I do? Who's this? That sort of thing. And so to have how to ask for this haircut for me, it's a very important thing to have on the Instagram.
For sure. You do not have to prepay for this appointment. Why did they think that? Why'd that guy think that before?
Well, because American Haircuts runs through Squire. And Squire does kind of walk you down the line of prepaying. Hey, just reserve the spot. You don't need to prepay for your appointment.
Yeah.
And see, to me, and I know I kind of go against some of the common thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to hold a gun to someone's head to come get their haircut by me, I'm probably not the right barber for them.
Yeah.
If I have to say, well, I've got your money, so you have to come to me, I just don't dig it.
Absolutely. Briefly, you went to the Las Vegas Barber Expo. How was that? How was that experience?
Oh, it's fantastic. It was fantastic. And by the way, I put a very high value on hair shows.
So I haven't popped my cherry in that area yet, and I know BarberCon's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with all these shows and expos is they're on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
I'm way too big of a football fan, and I'll cut you a little break with the Raiders hat. I'm like the biggest Broncos fan you'll ever meet.
Oh,
so.
Zoom in on that. Zoom in
on
the hat. Seriously, can you do that?
Oh, wait a minute.
Zoom in on that hat.
What's going on here? Barbers. There it is. Okay, I stand corrected. Where'd you find that? Who made that?
That was actually at there's a vendor, the Anti-Broke Barbers Club.
Oh, yeah.
They had it for sale at the show up in Nashville. I said, okay. And the guy and I were talking. He's like, that's actually a pretty cool hat. I'll get it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It just got a lot better.
Yeah.
A lot better.
So the hair shows for me, number one is the education.
Yes.
Go in there, learn things which I'm not going to learn at other places.
Yes.
Why do I blend the way I blend? Why do I do some of the techniques I do? Because I learn them at these shows from people who cut differently, who get different results. I want to follow what they're doing. Why do I think differently along certain ways? And so that's why I go to these shows. The Las Vegas show was fantastic. I didn't realize just how big those things can get.
Oh, especially
I've
in
never
Vegas.
seen a barber-centric show that big.
Those conference centers got to be massive in those casinos and shit.
I saw more barber swag. It's like, hey, let me buy the show we're on Barber or whatever. I saw more of that at this show than I had at other shows.
Really? Okay.
But I also saw more people. The teachers who I follow right now, the guys who I'm studying with, I met them at barber shows to increase my skill levels. I wouldn't have run into them otherwise.
Just like right here, right?
Mm-hmm. That is Angelo del Solar. If you've ever heard of the hairbender technique, that's him. And it's all based on being able to deconstruct a haircut, medium or long length, which is things which I'm trying to learn how to do better now.
Yes.
How to be able to deconstruct that haircut, know what it's supposed to do, how you're supposed to cut that thing before you start cutting it, and then go
100%.
after it.
Look, there's the Ken haircut. I'm sure some people coming through asking for the Ken there.
Well, you see what he does
God, there's the Peaky Blinders.
Yep, and he does it on a mannequin, and he does these videos. Here's this cut. He'll do like a celebrity or anime. He'll do it with anime characters, and he'll do it on a freaking mannequin. Boom, boom, boom.
That's a popular one too.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's nuts.
So real quick, back to the podcast.
Yeah,
the Beyond the Barber's Chair podcast. I missed this one. Staying hydrated. What was that episode there?
That was in the middle of. So I made that a breakout from
a clip. I see you do that. That's pretty wise.
Yeah.
For
Well,
the people like on this podcast that checked out,
Yeah.
that's why I make the clips on Instagram, but it's smart to do it on the actual platform too. So
Yeah.
I like that strategy.
And well, it's smart because, I mean, who wants to listen to an hour-long podcast about life insurance?
Yeah, no.
But learning how to insure, can we insure our hands as barbers? Yeah, people want to know about that kind of thing,
I'm so weird about my hands, dude. So that one perked my ears up.
Mm-hmm.
I was where is it? There it is. Yeah, I was like, this is super important.
We got sound on.
I did listen to that one, and he said that's normally for people that are charging an astronomical amount, that they would, what he say? He'd rather you go the disability route, right?
What was it? Income protection, I think is what he's talking about. The
income protection, which is it kind of falls under
coverage, where if one of us were to get into an accident, and hey, my hand's messed up, I can't cut.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not screwed. I can still have some of my income actually protected.
That's exactly the insurance agent that our shop supplied that came in to try to insure us for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there's some plans that are like, $10 a month, $20 a month,
Yeah.
Now I hope you get more than a couple $100 when something does go down, but there's different packages. But they write you a check with their name on it. To try to go
endorse this for me, would you?
Yeah. These are all great topics on your podcast. So talking about the podcast, I mean, have you hit that wall yet? Because probably about 6 episodes into my podcast, I hit a pretty hard wall, and I was scrambling and panicking on how I was going to keep going. You know what I mean?
Not so much that wall. It's a different kind of wall that I've hit. So for me, getting things started was the hardest part.
Of course, yeah.
Okay? So it's kind of like we talk about in the barber industry, our clients will become our friends before our friends become our clients.
Yeah.
And that's because our friends don't know us as a barber. And there's a whole rabbit hole we can follow for that. Yeah. So I was here talking to a lot of folks in my networks. Hey, I'm starting a podcast. I need guests.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And some are brave again. Well, let's go do this. It's sort of really very supportive. But a lot of them are like, let's wait and see how things go. We know this game.
Yeah.
That to me was the first real big hurdle. The second one, though, is this is where I'm actually at right now. So editing these things, taking out all the ums and ahs and all that, that's a chore. And I'm not talking about 30-minute chore.
What do you use to edit?
Right now I'm using what's called Better Audio Editor or something like that. It's like a spinoff of Odyssey on Windows PC.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's better tools. I'm still kind of groping through this and trying to figure the thing out.
Yeah, it's all about what's easiest for you. Don't let anyone tell you like, oh, you should do Adobe Premiere, pay a gazillion dollars for something that you can achieve on something, that's literally just a small aspect of the podcast. I mean, editing's huge for sure. Don't let me diminish it.
Right.
But there's so many different options you can do. And it's something that no one can really see, the platform you're using. So what's the big deal on what particular editing software you're using, right?
Yeah. Is it audio file or is it video file?
Yeah, exactly. You read some on your podcast, right?
Not really.
Okay. So I was going to say
a lot of the podcast is actually them talking.
Well, yeah. I was mainly thinking maybe just introducing the guest or something like that. You might read a little bit.
I'll jot down some notes.
Yeah.
Literally like 2 or 3 bullet points, and then I go, and then I edit that down to where it's supposed to be. As far as the way it's supposed to take out the ums and ahs and that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. My question to you coming in, I wanted to ask about the podcast was what's stopping you from doing the video as well?
Haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah.
It just hadn't been important to me because in my thinking, a lot of these guys listening to these podcasts, They're not sitting in front of a screen
No.
watching the TV.
They're cleaning the house while they're
cleaning.
listening.
They're driving. They're doing
The
all these
number
other
one
stuff.
thing my like old friends tell me that listen to my podcast, like I'm talking about like first friends like ever in my life. Like I'm fortunate enough that they're super cool and they support me, listen to my podcast all the time. But they always tell me, yeah, I always throw it on while I'm cleaning the house, right? So they're watching YouTube when they do it because the audio never comes out until like later on in the week.
Okay.
But like my audio came out today. We're recording on Tuesday. Podcast comes out on Sunday, the YouTube version. And so, I appreciate them giving me the watch hours on YouTube, but they're not particularly watching all the time.
Right.
Maybe there's something that they're like, oh, what are they talking about? Then they'll look. But
See,
yeah,
that's part of the
point.
Part of the thing which I'm going at with the podcast which I'm going here. I'm not expecting my podcast to have the weekly. I'm going to listen to this podcast every week comes out. I'm not expecting that.
No, yeah.
I'm expecting somewhere along the way, someone to be Googling, what is a tax write-off? Boom. Here's a resource for you.
That's so smart. It's a resource like you wanted it to be. They can literally just listen to what they're looking for if they want.
That's what I'm trying to make happen. And if they want to listen to the whole episodes, awesome. Because there's stuff on there which I don't have broken down. That's fine. It's not the point of it. Now, going back to talking about the wall, though.
Yeah.
I'm at the point now where I'm realizing how long it takes me to do the edits.
How long does it take you?
I'm in there for a half day.
That's it?
Dude,
it takes me 2 to 3 days sometimes to get the shit done.
I'm being very conservative when I say this.
Well, you don't have 2-hour episodes like mine.
Exactly. You got 2 hours. Really. I've got half hour, 40 minutes, maybe,
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I'm ready to say, someone else handle this because I have more valuable things to do with my time.
Yeah.
Such as build the business and instead of me having hands on there. Here's the problem though. If I'm paying someone to do the editing, now this has become an expense.
Yeah. It's already an expense.
It already is.
Someone to do the audio.
It already is.
Yeah.
That time has a value. And so now I have to monetize something to make it worthwhile. The podcast is not ready for monetization yet.
No.
I'd be smoking something really bad if I thought I could sell ads on this yet. I mean, we're not there yet.
Project for years and years before it might make $1.
Exactly. So, can I get another service in? Is there something which I can add to my website to actually sell some product? Are there other things? Is there a network which I can build to where I can actually just say, hey, I'm creating a stream of income here to be able to pay for the editing on here, so I can continue to do things. So I can continue to do the things which I want to get done.
Right.
And so I wouldn't necessarily call a wall, but I'm looking at it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to climb this thing.
You're kind of realizing the amount of work it is, and to be consistent with that work, it's like it grinds you down sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, I like to do weekly, but it's just there's no way it's feasible when I'm doing everything by myself. That's what I was telling my wife. I was like, literally today on our walk, I was like, if I get to the point to where this thing gets, maybe a year or two from now where I might be in a better spot, because I'm going to keep going. I don't quit easy, Dave. That's one thing. I don't quit. I don't like quitting.
Right on.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep going, but like the hardest part is the guest acquisition part and the scheduling part and the keeping all that shit organized. I almost overwhelmed myself. I had to record 3 podcasts this week, and I was like, I can't do this. I got to reschedule these guys because when I was out of the country in Colombia, a lot of my free time or laid over at an airport, or I was reaching out to so many people because I was coming off of 2 weeks where I had no episode out. That's when I talked to you too. That's literally when I talked to you. So I was literally reaching out to so many people. I was scheduling some people, and I forgot I had someone scheduled from those conversations October 1st, yesterday, right? Or no, sorry, dude. See, I don't even know what day it is.
I know.
So yeah, that's next week. And I I had someone scheduled on the 2nd too, and then I think I had someone else scheduled on the 2nd. So I'm like, dude, there's no way. And the thing is, I might have lost a guest by having that screw up, because
It happens.
I told him, I'm like, dude, I get it. You get all ramped up to do these things, and when it doesn't happen, it's kind of a gut punch. And so, which literally kind of happened to me recently with a guest. You know, we had to reschedule, and he kind of didn't show when I needed him to show. And I was so like demoralized by it. I was like, oh my God, I had all these talk paths ready to rock. My mental was ready to go. My head was right, and it didn't happen. And I was almost like, oh, how am I going to do this? But no, ended up getting it done. I'm not going to say who that was, of course, but
right.
No, yeah. So it was a good thing, but yeah, dude, you just gotta keep plugging away. Just like anything, you find ways to make it faster, to make it easier. And dude, anytime you want any kind of advice or just a question about anything, you want to start something new, just hit me up. You know, if I've done
I'll do that. I appreciate that.
Like I said, a lot of this is just not knowing what the hell is going on. And you just kind of roll with the punches there, right?
Oh yeah. So you're talking about discovering or having rescheduled guests. I've got one who I'm on the third reschedule.
Yeah.
But
once it gets to 3, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, see, and the third one, I know why the third one happened. Third one's on me.
Sometimes it's on you.
Because when I sent the Zoom invite, I sent it the same day as the original day that we had to change from. And it's supposed to be saying for the new date, and it's like, well, that didn't work out. Yeah. However, what she brings to the table, we're rescheduling for November. What she brings to the table is freaking hugely valuable. It's on the financial end of people who want to open barbershops, and also for people who want to actually buy the freaking building.
Right.
This is coming in November, and it's like, and she is that well entrenched into this whole thing. So yeah, we're definitely doing it in November, but it's like, you trying to get guests can be something. But by the way, so you asked about the show earlier on. At that show, I lined up my next 5 or 6 guests.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. That's why if you have a barber podcast and you're not at BarberCon, what the hell are you doing? So like I if I can make it work, I'm going to try to go, but I just hate the Sunday thing with these shows. I get it. Everyone's off on Sunday.
Yeah.
But like whatever happened to making it like any other day?
Right.
But
and I get it. And one of the reasons why when I got to the barbershop on Saturday, now American Haircuts is not open on Sundays. Awesome.
Perfect.
that helped make the decision to change over there a lot easier.
Right. It's definitely a strategic scheduling by the shows. Like, yeah. This is all my shit, basically. The reason why I'm complaining about it. Are you gonna go to BarberCon this year?
I don't know yet. See, I've done a lot of shows this year. I've done a lot of freaking shows, and I probably will wind up being there.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see that a lot of these different shows have their different
vibes.
Well, vibes. That's about the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Who's there? What's there? What people trying to do? What they're trying to accomplish? That sort of thing.
No doubt.
And you start seeing some of the same people, and you start to see the same copycats.
Yeah.
And you just start to see, which shows are the shows that you definitely want to get to. Like next year, I'm definitely gonna go to Connecticut, the CT one.
Yeah.
Based on what I saw in Las Vegas.
I'm from West Virginia, and my people from West Virginia, barber-wise, went. And that's a big one. That's like the biggest one, no? Is it?
Yeah, it is. It is the biggest one.
It's almost like you have to roll deep in, and it kind of just like gets rid of whatever shield, whatever walls you got to break through to, talk to people or get through it. Just, have someone there with you to relate to what you're feeling or what you're going to approach or who you're going to approach. And I feel like that's the way to approach it. But I would like to go. I need to go. But Dave, what's that?
I think it's worth it.
So Dave, what in closing here before we go extremely long? What
I know, right?
What's next, man? What do you got in the works here? We kind of talked about it briefly. What would you like to do here? Progressing forward.
Well, so I studying for the medium and longer haircuts. because I'm seeing a lot more guys coming and say, I want these. And so I want to get really good at getting those taken care of. That's operationally speaking.
Yeah.
So in 3 years, I plan to open a barber school.
Nice.
And, one of the things which I want to have in that school is, an operating barbershop. And then one that people can spend $5 and let these students get their reps in there. So they have a barbershop where they can go and shadow and help with that. And then they have their own shop where they can go ahead and get the $5 ones. The other side is I want to have business professionals teach the students, like, for example, things that are on the podcast.
Yes.
Here's why you want an LLC. Or maybe you don't want an LLC. Maybe you want to be an S Corp. Or maybe you just want to roll the dice. Or here's why you need to do this. And if you're looking at buying houses, here's what you need to do with your taxes so you're leaving yourself in a bad situation.
Yeah.
Just have professionals come in and teach those classes.
Here's one: a psychiatrist or psychologist, someone in the mental health industry.
Exactly.
That is huge for our industry, and it's becoming more and more, prevalent especially with Craig Charles and what the Barber College Success Pod's doing. He's an advocate in that. So, I think that's great.
Project is something else.
Because the number one thing that all these students are going through is just the fear of, am I good enough? Is this the right decision? I'm not good at this. And no one is when they start. So that's the biggest hurdle initially, the mental health aspect of it, the mental hurdle.
And it grows.
All those other life skills that you want to bring in too. I mean, that's what'll separate your school from others. Adding those wrinkles, and I love that idea.
The interesting thing about that is that's how the podcast was born in the first place.
Gotcha.
I had a conversation. There's a business consultant who leads some really large companies through their management team meetings and things like that in their retreats. His name is Sorel Katan.
Okay.
And he works with really large enterprise level businesses. And he and I had chatted. And the next morning, it just popped in my head. It's like, you know what? Why do I have to wait 3 years to get this information to the barbers when I can do a podcast and use that to get the information out there?
Yeah, you're kind of scratching your itch, too, at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making you feel good. And I'm sure it's going to boost your confidence for when that day comes. And you'll have kind of all the information in your brain already and at your disposal. And that'll make it seem simple at that point, right?
It'll be a lot easier to open a school and talk to whoever you need to talk to as far as investors or banks and things like that and say, oh, by the way, here's what I'm doing for the past 3 years. It'll be a lot simpler when there's actually a body of work already in place.
Absolutely.
Than someone who says, hey, I just want to open a school.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
So Dave, anything else you want to promote in closing?
You know what? Not really, except for,
Come get a haircut, damn it.
I'm sorry?
Come get a haircut, damn it.
I know, right? So if I was in front of 100 barbers and I was asked, what would I want to tell the 100 barbers? I would say a couple things. One of them, remember to be nice to people. Just be nice to people.
You might be the only person that day that was nice to them.
Yeah, you might very well be. And these are customers. They're clients. They're coming to us to be served, to be taken care of. And they're not our enemy. Even though we like to joke about it and we talk about, another kid, or like the guy who I might have fired tomorrow, or whatever, anything like that. Right. These guys are not our enemies.
No, we need them.
This is why we do our thing.
We need each other.
Yeah, we do.
And more for just the haircut aspect too. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, we've got a fantastic community of barbers.
Oh yeah.
And we as a community lift each other up naturally. So
we still have to make more of an effort at doing that too. Connecting and bringing each other up instead of putting each other down. Well, Dave, I really appreciate you here. I thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you, Matt. Big time. This is fun.
Continue to spread the information on your podcast and go follow Beyond the Barber's Chair podcast. What's the best platform we can follow that on?
I think we're on all of them. Spotify, Apple, Google, or they can go to beyondthebarberschair.com.
There you go. You have your own website. What about copyright? Did you do that yet? your copyright on your name for your podcast?
That's in process right now.
Okay.
That's all in
I
process.
use something called Buzzsprout. They give you the copyright right there.
Okay.
So I was
We-
like, I
we should
I
have a talk.
literally found that out today.
Okay.
Just like digging around, adjusting, editing things I haven't looked at since I started the podcast.
Mhm.
I found that today. I was like, oh, I'm copyrighted here. They did it.
We're in town. Let's grab a beer. Let's chat sometime.
I was
y'all.
going to say, come down to the shop, get a beer.
Yeah,
shoot the shit.
absolutely. It'd be good to see the shop again.
Well, Dave, have a good one, my man. Good night. I appreciate you making the
Thank
time.
you, Matt. We'll have a great time. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, brother. Have a good one. Thanks for watching another episode of the Your Barber Podcast. New episodes come out weekly on Sunday. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify to be notified when new content is posted. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.